and welcome to the Unsure to Unstoppable podcast. My name is James Dunn, and I was adopted. I grew up in a household with an alcoholic father, and I was arrested for attempted armed robbery when I was 17 years old. Why do I share that with you in this podcast introduction? Well, because while you may not have gone through any one of those specific set of circumstances yourself, you've had your own version of them, whether it's a loss of a job, a divorce, you were picked on as a kid. Something in your life has created this little voice in the back of your head that's made you doubt yourself, question yourself and what you're truly capable of. As a podcast host and as a mindset coach, what I do is I help you tell that little voice in the back of your head to shut the fuck up, get out of your own way, and move from unsure to unstoppable. And how I plan to do that is each week I'm going to bring you stories of inspiration, motivation, my own challenges, my own struggles, as well as those of others who've gone through challenging times, rough times, things that most people maybe just didn't think they could ever get through, but have not only gone through them, but come out thriving on the other side of them. And through the sharing of those stories, I hope to help you see that you're not alone in this journey called life. Whatever you've gone through, whatever challenges you're having right now, it doesn't matter. You are a fucking badass and you deserve an amazing, incredible life, and we're going to help you get there. So with that, enjoy today's show. All right, welcome back to the show. If you follow the show on a regular basis and you've been tracking, when the shows have been released, you may have noticed we missed a show last week. And that's a little bit about what I want to talk about today. Now, I had actually, on a certain level, set out intentionally wanting to bump the days of the release schedule. So normally what I've been doing is releasing episodes of this podcast out on Mondays. I did want to shift it forward a couple of days, release either Wednesday or Thursday. I hadn't really decided exactly what day I wanted to do it, but it was for a couple of reasons. Number one, I'm starting to host on Monday nights. I'm hosting a FUNetworking Game Night, so a chance, an opportunity for people to get together, connect with one another, like-minded, growth-minded people, to start building a community, to start hanging out, having fun with one another, to surround yourself with awesome, like-minded people who will support you, challenge you, be there for you. That's something that I'm in the process of building. And so what I want to do is I wanted to kind of separate the day the podcast was released and that networking event that everybody has access to. You have access to it right now if you want. I'll drop link for it in the show notes, but I wanted to have a separation between those 2 days. And that was my plan. My original plan was just release this next episode on either Wednesday or Thursday. Hadn't officially decided, probably leaning towards Thursday was what I was doing. But what happened was I got so caught up in the promotion of the FUNetworking event and reaching out to so many people and connecting with them one-on-one to let them know about it and to make sure they got the link for it and they had the information for it. And then I was promoting it everywhere and doing everything I could to make sure that that thing was taken care of. I got sidetracked. I got a little bit overwhelmed and didn't get my notes put together. I didn't get a strategy put together for the next episode. I didn't want to just wing it. I had a couple of ideas, but I wanted to take a little bit of time to really sit down and hone out what idea I wanted to share. But I didn't do that because I got so busy with the other thing. So that leads me to today's topic. Nobody plans to fail. I didn't plan to fail last week about getting a new episode of the podcast out, sharing this information with you and helping you on your journey and on your path to greatness. But I did anyway. And the reason I failed was because I failed to plan. And this is an old saying. It's not that we plan to fail, we just fail to plan. And when we don't have a plan in place, a very specific plan, and I don't mean just a thought in the back of our head of what we ideally want to do, because that's kind of what I had. I had that in the back of my head. Well, here's kind of what I want to do, but I left it way too open. I hadn't sat down, written out a schedule for the week saying, okay, here's what I'm going to do on Saturday. Here's what I'm going to do on Sunday. Here's what I'm going to do on Monday. Here's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all these days, leading up to when the event was going to happen and when the podcast needed to be released, when it could get edited, when it could get uploaded, all of these things that had to happen. I didn't put those down on a piece of paper. And if you listened a few episodes back, I talk about in the marathon mindset why you should run a marathon episode. having a very specific plan is so critical to your success, because then you can see all the steps you need to get from point A to point B to point C to point D to point E to get you to the goal that you want to get to. What I want you to do is, if you have something that needs to be done, that you know that you want to get done, sit down and create a very specific plan. Put it on a piece of paper, because if it's not on a piece of paper, it's just an idea, it's a wish, it's a dream, it's a hope, but it's not a plan. It's not a specific goal unless you have it, I don't believe, written down on a piece of paper. So for myself, what that's looking like moving forward is sitting down, mapping out my week in terms of what days am I going to record the podcast? What days will I edit the podcast? What days will I upload the podcast? What days will I promote the call? What days will I host the call? I mean, I know the call's on Monday, but all of these things, it's building in an actual schedule for myself. It's planning out in very vivid detail when each one of these steps are going to happen. And that's going to set me up for success. And it will do the same for you. Whatever goal you have, you don't have to know every single step that you have to take, but you're at least going to have a pretty good idea of how to get you from one step to the next step to the next step. And if nothing else, at least planning the very next step. When are you going to take that next step? What's the date? What's the time? What's the situation going to look like? What can you do to set yourself up for success going into that? Which means, if you're going to be doing something like this where I'm recording the podcast, what do I need to do to make sure my daughter is taken care of? So literally right before I recorded this podcast, I went in, touched base with her, asked her if there was anything she needed, made sure that was all taken care of. I left my phone upstairs. I have a little office area set up in my basement. So I left my phone upstairs so there would be no distractions. I made sure to create an environment that would be conducive to the successful recording of this podcast. I had a plan. I put it into place. So again, moving forward, laying out these steps in detail, and you can do the same. Figure out what your next step is. Figure out those moments like I just talked about. What do you need to do to set yourself up for success? And get those planned out. Get them written out on paper, so that way you can go through those steps. Having that plan doesn't 1000% guarantee your success, but it puts you in such a much better position to potentially succeed, because you're going to have, hopefully, the vast majority of the things that could stop you from succeeding in whatever your plan is. You're going to have them already taken care of. You're going to have them figured out along the way. And even if something does come up that you're not expecting, so if my daughter were to come down right now and say, "Hey, Dad, I need your help right now," okay, I can take care of that. But then I have a plan. I know how to get right back on track to getting to where I need to be. And you will have the same. If you've got your plan written out, you've got it set up, ready for you. If you get distracted, if something comes along, pulls you off course, it's not where you have to start all over again. You can easily jump right back into your path, your goal, your system, and get right back on track, because you know, oh, here's where I got derailed. Here's where I need to get back into. And maybe you have to back up a step or two, but you know, you don't have to start completely over, you know, right back, right where you need to get back to get things going again. All right. So that's this week's lesson. Going to keep it short and sweet so I can get this episode out and then have my plan built a little better as we move forward, so I can make sure to have that consistency for you, so I can show up on time on a regular basis. And I do want to go ahead and invite you, as I'm promoting the Monday night call every Monday night, except for holidays and any other crazy random things that comes along. But the vast majority of Monday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time, what I'm doing now is I'm hosting the Networking Game Night. I had to hesitate there for a second because I've toyed with the name a little bit, but it's the Networking Game Night. And what we do is we get together, share some time, we have some fun, and then surround you with awesome, fun, and exciting people who are motivated, you know, wanting to live their best life and just be supportive and be supported by other people doing the same thing. And I would love to invite you out for that. Like I said, I'll drop a link in the show notes. But plan your week out, plan your life out, Not down to every single detail, but at least have yourself a plan written out so you've got some guidelines, you've got some momentum, you've got a path that you can follow. And if you do, you'll be much, much, much more likely to be successful. All right, get out there, have an amazing fucking day, and I'll see you next time. If you found value in this episode, please share it with your friends. Give us a 5-star rating on iTunes and anywhere else that you happen to hear it. We are just trying to celebrate life, make it better for everyone, and sharing these messages with them just helps them believe in themselves and what can be better than that.